You're not allowed to judge me on it. Welcome along to this week's YouTube. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my 6 favourite podcasts that I listen to. I love YouTube, I love podcasts simply because you can learn and be entertained so much for absolutely nothing. And today I'm going to be sharing with you some of my favourite fashion podcasts, some of my favourite business podcasts, and also just a couple that I listen to for entertainment. Also, more than anything, love some recommendations coming back at me. So let me know what you have listened to and what you've enjoyed. Thanks so much, guys. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this video. So my first podcast that I want to recommend in a strong first position is Sheer Luxe. It is essentially just 3 or 4 opinionated women all sat around a table talking about everything. So gossip and movies and TV to kind of more current affairs type conversations. And I think the reason that it is such compelling listening is because they do really have strong opinions, and it is just interesting to hear what other people think, and the fact that it's kind of 4 women talking about things that women like to talk about, often with really interesting guests on board as well. They also have a couple of other elements within the blog, and that is the Sheer Luxe success stories, which essentially talks to really successful female founders. Off the top of my head, Jo Malone stood out to me as one that I absolutely loved listening to. Such an inspiring woman and just really open and honest, and kind of, yeah, it was really great to listen to. They've also done Ann Summers. They might have done Dermalogica. They've done so many really interesting female founder interviews. Yeah, so number 1, the Sheer Luxe podcast. In at number 2 for me is a similar vibe to the Sheer Luxe success stories, but it is a big podcast that comes out of America, and it's called How I Built This. And essentially it interviews the brains behind really prominent, large household name businesses. So Airbnb, Instagram, Starbucks, and essentially understands how they started the business, how they grew the business, and all the nitty gritty stuff in between, where it all goes wrong, when it was all touch and go, all of that sort of stuff. Running my own business is something that I really enjoy listening to, because sometimes it's not all plain sailing, and it can be a real encouragement to hear that everyone started somewhere. If you have a keen interest in maybe TV programs like Dragon's Den, that could be a really great podcast for you to listen to. So podcast number 3 is one that you need a long journey for, and it's one my husband and I discovered this summer when we had a big long drive. We just had heard about it on the grapevine, just popped it on, and that was the end of it. We literally, apart from at the end of every episode, we didn't say a word to each other. You know, as a woman, you're kind of hoping it's a moment to reconnect. Well, there was no connection at all. It was just listening to Serial. Essentially, if you enjoyed Making a Murderer, then I think this is going to be one for you, as it unpacks episode by episode whether or not a boy who is imprisoned actually is guilty of the crime he's in prison for. And there's lots of different elements that are involved, but yeah, I would really recommend that. That's season 1. We're holding out. We haven't done season 2 or 3, so hoping for another long journey soon. In 4th place for me is one that I dip in and out of. It's not one that I religiously listen to every week, but I am in the business of fashion. I work in e-commerce, and so it's just one that I think is really important for me to listen to, and that is the Glossy Podcast. And essentially it talks about how technology is changing the fashion landscape, and they have really interesting guests from big brands such as Rebecca Minkoff and Alison Olivia, and lots of other really huge fashion brands. So if you are in the business of fashion, that could be a good one to listen to. The 5th one is one on health, and it's a real passion of mine. I think growing up in an age where calories were the focus rather than quality of food, and how sugar replaced fat and potentially created a huge obesity epidemic in low-fat foods, it's just an area that I'm finding fascinating, and it's kind of unfolding in front of our eyes, isn't it? There's a particular doctor that I follow, and it's called The Doctor's Pharmacy, and it's just one that I find interesting just to hear opinions of people who are leading the thoughts in that area. Finally, the last one is a bit of a guilty pleasure. You're not allowed to judge me on it, and you're only going to enjoy it if you like Made in Chelsea. But if you like Made in Chelsea, then I would recommend Private Parts, and that's a podcast with Jamie Lang and Francis Boole, and it's really funny. They have really immature conversations, they have young guests, they talk about sex too much, but it really makes me laugh out loud on the train, and if anything can distract me at the end of the day, it's probably going to be that. Guys, I think that pretty much rounds up this week. If you do go and listen to any of those, please let the people know that you got a recommendation from me. Other than that, guys, if you enjoy this sort of content, hit like and subscribe, and I will see you here same time next weekend. Bye.